Right off the bat, my first guest for the first 20 minutes or so is the excellent leader of Advance UK. He is, of course, Ben Habib. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Kevin. Good to be on.
I did want to start with you on this kind of weird skewing of the balance of the way things happen in this nation, that more and more it seems we have a government, we have authorities that prioritise the rights, the needs, the wants, the desires of migrants and asylum seekers over homegrown Brits. But we'll get to that in a minute, because I think the Mandelson story, the magnitude of the Mandelson story, is growing by the minute. Let us just remind ourselves, before we get your take, Ben, of what Lord Mandelson said about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein on the BBC, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, with Laura Kuenssberg.
Possibly some people will think because that I'm a gay man, I was sort of insensitised, or I wasn't attuned to what was going on. I don't really accept that. I think the issue is that because I was a gay man in his circle, I was kept separate from what he was doing in the sexual side of his life.
Your friend Nigel Farage, Ben, has just been speaking about Lord Mandelson at one of Reform UK's hourly press conferences that he seems to stage all the time. This one was about bringing the price of a pint down, so perhaps we'll chat about that in a second. But this is Nigel Farage on Mandelson.
Well, it's always the bloke at the top in the end that has to take responsibility, even if it's not his or her fault. I mean, that's just the way it works in business, in politics. I mean, obviously we don't know what the MI6 report that the Prime Minister received, or did he receive, did he ask for it before the appointment as ambassador to America. We don't know the details of that. But ultimately, I would have thought that the Labour backbenchers, who are moving quite rapidly to the left in terms of their centre of gravity, will be demanding that McSweeney goes within the next few days. Perhaps it'll take a week. And you'll know, as soon as McSweeney goes, that Starmer won't last long afterwards. That would be my take and my judgment. Ultimately, given, as I said a moment ago, all the previous warnings about Mandelson's behaviour, it is a grave error of judgment on behalf of the Prime Minister, and I think that's inescapable now.
I think Nigel Farage is right, Ben. I also think there are terrible misjudgments by previous Labour Prime Ministers, Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, who promoted this guy to the very highest echelons of government. He was Business Secretary, he was European Trade Commissioner. This government, or the Labour governments of the past, didn't do anything without first consulting Mr. Mandelson, as he then was. During this time, it transpires that according to the Epstein files, he took $25,000 from his friend Jeffrey Epstein, his best pal. He says he has no recollection of that. A strange response, if you ask me. Also, his lover, his partner, was receiving at one point, it is thought, $4,000 a month from Epstein. And Epstein, he begged and got wired money from Epstein to pay for an osteopath course that he wanted to go on. During all of these times, Peter Mandelson was a senior figure in the Labour government, and we now see documentary email evidence that he did Epstein's bidding. He tried to get the government to change policy on bonuses in the city because Jeffrey Epstein wanted the rules and regulations reduced so that they only affected cash payments and not stocks and shares. Mandelson tried to change that. He also sent Epstein a confidential email between government ministers and the Prime Minister suggesting a change of policy in Europe, from which Epstein could have made a lot of money on the markets. This is very serious stuff. It's not out of the bounds of possibility that this could be construed to be treason. If he was taking money and providing state secrets to an American businessman, that's treason.
So I think the really pertinent points you made, if I may say so, Kev, the latter points you've made, that actually money was exchanging hands in return for favors being given by Mandelson. It's typical and totally understandable that people focus on Epstein. When they look at Epstein, they focus on the despicable sexual acts that were performed on often very young girls, and I'm sure there was paedophilia, etc., involved as well. But that, I think, really is just the tip of the iceberg. That is the mechanism Epstein used in order to gain favor with these powerful people, not just Mandelson, but others, as you know, right across the globe. And it was the hook he could then use against them to make sure that they stayed loyal to him. And another hook he used was monetary handouts, as you've seen with De Silva and with Mandelson himself. And this, I think, goes to the heart of how government has operated over the last 30 years. There has been an ever greater collusion between big money and big power. And we see it evidenced once a year at least in the World Economic Forum. I'm not suggesting for a moment that anyone going to the World Economic Forum acts in the same way that Epstein did in terms of sexual favors being granted, etc. But when you put big power with big money together behind closed doors, billionaires financing trips by politicians or billionaires handing out big donations to political parties, that comes with serious influence. And Mandelson wasn't able, and I suspect most politicians are unable, given the paltry amounts that they're prepared to be bought off for, able to put down a line between their obligations as government ministers and members of parliament, put down a line between that and the favors and graces that they've been given by these incredibly rich people. And this has become very, very blurred over the last 30 years. Mandelson is just one example. It's a particularly egregious example because of the sexual aspects that go around the whole operation of Epstein. But it is typical. Now, we've got to also remember, the reason I say it's typical, we've also got to remember that Mandelson had at least twice before been sacked by the Labour Party. Once when he was taking loans from fellow ministers and hadn't disclosed them.
Jeffrey Robinson, they took a £300,000 plus mortgage from a fellow cabinet minister, the richest man in the Labour Party, for a house in Notting Hill Gate, the scandal of which was brilliantly named Notting Hill Gate. He lost his job for that. He also had to walk the plank for trying to organise passports under the counter for the Intuja brothers, the rich Indian tycoons. It's always money with Mandelson. My point would be, Ben, with Mandelson, the scandal that he is involved in, by the way, today he says he's retired from the Lords. I think we should go the extra mile and take that peerage away from him. I'm sick of hearing, oh, it's so complicated. I seem to remember not very long ago us being told about Prince Andrew. It's so difficult to take that Prince title away. You can't do it. You can't just take the Duke of York title away, and then they just did it in 10 minutes. So they can take his peerage away, and I think they should. What's happening here, Ben, if you think about Mandelson and you think about Prince Andrew, what is on trial here, what will be on trial, because the police must surely investigate and prosecute those two lowlifes. What is on trial here is the establishment. It is
absolutely, 100%.
The fact that the police have already let Andrew off the hook because he clearly abused his position by trying to get a royal detective to look into Virginia Giuffre for him. That is malfeasance. He needs to be done for that. He needs to be done for his activity while he was a trade envoy for this country. Clearly, he was operating in an underhand way. And Mandelson needs to be done effectively for selling secrets to a businessman. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter that Epstein's a paedophile and a low life. It's the fact he's a rich American billionaire businessman that a cabinet minister was selling secrets to. That is the allegation, and if that is true, Mandelson goes to Wormwood Scrubs or another jail.
Absolutely. But just one other point I'd like to make. Mandelson has been doing this for 30 years, at least 26, 27 years. So, and he's been allowed to get away with it. And that says to me that lots of other people within his circle are doing the same thing. They're all backing each other up and they're not calling each other out. Starmer, I think Farage alluded to it in his press conference. Starmer was in possession of security services files, which advised against appointing Mandelson as ambassador to the US, but they still went ahead and did it. All these people, and I use this in a metaphorical sense, are in bed with each other. It is deeply sick. And that's why you are also so right, if I may say so, to say it's the establishment that's on trial. If Mandelson goes down, Starmer should go down, McSweeney should go down. All the other people around them should have questions asked of them. How did this happen? People who declare and have declared repeatedly for so many years that Tony Blair was a great statesman, Mandelson was a great statesman. These people need to be investigated. Why is it that they're so hoodwinked? The establishment is so hoodwinked by the powers of the power of money, by rich influence. Why do they all flock off to flipping Davos once a year? Why do they do that?
Good question.
It's because they love money. And the other thing that is, slightly eyebrow raising is that they're bought off with such small amounts of money. $25,000, and he's giving over national security secrets.
When his boyfriend was accepting this money from Epstein to do this osteopathy course, a lot of people say, well, at the time, this was 2009 when Mandelson was business secretary, so he would have been commanding an income way over £200,000 a year. A lot of people saying, well, can't you afford the 10 grand or whatever it was for your boyfriend's osteopathy course? And he said, I see that point. He said, but I saw it as an act of kindness on Jeffrey's part. This guy's just a low-life scrounger. He really is. Listen, Ben, I just want to get you on one other topic before we go. Thank you very much for your insight into the escalating Mandy scandal. He's in trouble. He's in big trouble. Make no mistake.
I think the government's in trouble. Starmer's in trouble.
I think so. It is thought, it's being bandied around Westminster today, that if the police, and by the way, that's another person who's on the rack, Samart Rowley, the Met Police detective. Don't let these people off, Rowley. Don't let them off. You can't. You've done it in the past. Don't do it this time. It won't wash. Now, I wanted to ask you about the price of a pint. We're going to cover this story in a little while. Nigel Farage and Reform UK are going to make this one of the backbones of their campaign. We're going to bring down the price of a pint. Around London, it's fairly average for a pint to cost about £8.50. Sometimes near a tenner. We found a place in Comsett in Durham that does a pint for £2.90. And my correspondent, Steve from East Yorkshire, has just texted in to say that in his working man's club, oh no, this is a Wetherspoons, I'm sorry, you can get beers between £1.99 and £2.39 a pint. I think it's a good move to try to bring down the price of beer, because that a lot of people feel strongly about this. But let me ask you this one element. I wanted to get your take on this. Yesterday, this ludicrous story came out about how the government had commissioned an investigation into the countryside and decided it was way too white and middle class. And apparently, we don't cater for Muslims enough. We should never let our dogs off the lead in the countryside because Muslims don't like it. My message to Muslims is, if you don't like dogs off the lead, don't go to the damn countryside. But this was the one that made me laugh. This report has called for an improvement on the part of rural pubs. Because when people of colour, particularly Muslims, go to the countryside, they find pubs to be very, very unwelcome because A, Muslims don't drink, and this is a very alcoholic atmosphere, and B, they don't do food for ethnic minorities. Well, the latter, that might be a point. But if we are calling on pubs to raise their game because Muslims don't like them because they don't drink, my message would be, well, Muslims, don't go to the damn pubs. This is just absurd, isn't it?
It is absurd. I suppose what's happened is that in urban environments, multiculturalism has taken absolute firm control, to the extent actually that ethnic minorities in many urban environments now outnumber white British citizens. But the countryside has managed to preserve British culture to some extent. Multiculturalism, for all its failures, are therefore more starkly revealed in the country. And because it's held its cultural national position, if you like, the country, it holds up a mirror to multiculturalism. And I agree with you. People don't like it. Don't go to the country. Don't go to the pub. Don't buy a pint of beer. Don't buy the pork scratchings. I'm going to buy all of those.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. It's my civic duty to help the pub industry. But yeah, it's just absurd. It's a bit, you know, you don't change the countryside to fit a certain section of the community.
But we've changed our cities to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And now we want to do it to rural areas as well, and it's got to stop. It is madness. Ben, fantastic to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your time. That's Ben Habib, leader of the Advanced UK